Hello, this is Benjamin Fulford speaking on October 17th, 2025. Uh, as my readers know, the U.S. government defaulted on September 30th, and that's the real reason why the government has been shut down. Also, according to my sources in Asian secret societies, they were given until today, October 17th, to come up with the money before the U.S. would be cut off from world trade and basically sent into a complete economic collapse. And it looks like something has happened. Now, the first thing I'm being told is that there is an epic battle going on between the military white hats and the Kazarian Mafia, and they each have their own Trumps, as I've said before, but I had a big email from the Pentagon today about this. Um, and they said that the real Trump is fighting very hard now to remove the fake Trump. And take a look at this clip to see the fake Trump at work.
Are you planning to meet Prime Minister Modi in Malaysia? Are you open to talks in terms of
Yeah,
trade?
sure. He's a friend of mine. We have a great relationship. He just said that 2 days ago, as you know. We have a great relationship. No, we were not happy with him buying oil from Russia because that lets Russia continue on with this ridiculous war where they've lost 1.5 million people, by the way. Russia's lost 1.5 million people, soldiers mostly. This is a war that should have never started, but it's a war that Russia should have won in the first week, and they're going into the fourth year. And I want to see it stop. So I was not happy that India was buying oil. And he assured me today that they will not be buying oil from Russia. That's a big stop. Now I got to get China to do the same thing. You know, that is relatively easy compared to what we just did over the last week in the Middle East. Middle East was 3,000 years, and we got it done. This is 3 years.
Now, he's telling one lie after another. He says that Russia lost 1.5 million troops, but the reality is, according to independent experts like Colonel Douglas McGregor, they lost about 100,000, whereas Ukraine lost 1.5 million. So that's a lie. And then he tells another lie. He says India's going to stop buying oil from Russia. That's not true. The Indian government said so. And so they're contradicting him. And this is the same Trump who suggested that mass murdering war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu be pardoned. So this man has to go. But what I've been told is that the White Hats have a Trump, and they have one avatar for dangerous public occasions, and that the bad guys, the Kazarian Mafia, have two Trumps as well as computer graphics, and it's a very epic battle. But what I'm being told is that with this deadline coming up, and this can be confirmed in the news with China saying they're going to cut off rare earths from the U.S. Now, if they cut off rare earths and they control the supply, because they have the unique technology for refining it. Rare earths are actually not very rare. The problem is getting it refined to 99.99% purity. And without it, the U.S. Automobile industry, semiconductor industry, military industry will grind to a halt. This is why I've been told that the real Trump will be meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin and with Chinese President Xi Jinping before the end of this month, because the November deadline is coming, and everybody agrees that this crazy Trump, the fake one, who's said is going to send tomahawks to the Ukraine, has to go. If the U.S. government sent tomahawks to Ukraine, they have to be managed by the U.S. military, and there's no way to differentiate between a nuclear-armed tomahawk and one that's not. So the whole idea of doing that is threatening to start World War III. But now the new Trump, who's supposedly back, is publicly saying, no, I'll never send tomahawks to the Ukraine. We need them ourselves. So there's something very, very serious happening here. But I've been told that special forces will go into Mar-a-Lago and they will arrest the fake Trump and his handlers. But believe it when you see it, because until that time, it's just not going to be possible. Now, the other thing, of course, is that The U.S. financial system is dysfunctional. Right now, farmers cannot grow food using the current system because they all lose money. They have the loan costs are too high, and the BlackRock and Vanguard and the usual suspects sort of control their distribution as well as their inputs. So right now in Japan as well as in the United States, farmers cannot profitably grow food. This is an existential crisis. So these people have to be removed, and they will be removed. That's what I'm hearing. And one indication that something has happened is take a look at this little clip here from the Ukraine.
Breaking news, the Ukrainian army has surrendered in Kupiansk. Tens of thousands of Ukrainians have just given up, and the front in Donetsk will collapse. Thousands of Ukrainians were trapped in this pocket of Kupiansk, and now the Russians have taken the whole city. After nearly 50,000 troops could not escape the encirclement.
They just had a mass surrender of 50,000 troops. The war is over, okay? And Vladimir Zelensky is a pariah. Look at this next video of him landing in the U.S. And you can see that he's only being greeted by his own staff. Nobody went out to see him. He's no longer considered a viable leader. So that's all ending. But it's not over until you see the public removal of the fake Trump and Prime Minister Starmer in the UK and Macron in France. When they go, it's really over. And of course, Ursula von der Leyen, all these people, they're still there. Now, we noticed that John Bolton was arrested. That's good. That means they're going after the Obama side, the Clinton side of the Kazarian Mafia. But that's kind of an internal battle between two factions. What we really want is all of them to go. All the Epstein Island pedophile types. And that really does have to happen. And looking elsewhere, it's looking more and more likely that France may be the first domino to fall. There was a change of government in Madagascar last week, and that means that France lost yet another African country. And more important, they lost access to nickel, which is necessary for their industry. And the real big battle is happening now in Morocco. Morocco is also controlled by France, but the important thing about Morocco is they control 70 to 75% of the world's supply of phosphate. And without phosphate, modern agriculture cannot function. So, at the end of the day, what would happen if it was a real showdown with China? China would cut off rare earths and industry would grind to a halt, and then the White Hats would cut off phosphate and agriculture would grind to a halt. And clearly, this is not an option for either side. So some kind of epic deal is going to be reached, but the ball has been kicked forward to November or so. But by then, some kind of deal will be reached. And we'll keep in touch with our various sources, but I know that high-level Russian FSB and MI6 people are talking through back channels to end the war in the Ukraine, and some sort of deal to have a bankruptcy of the United States is also being worked out, but it's going to have a jubilee. So it's all in a state of complete flux. But for now, the U.S. blinked because they knew their soldiers would not get their paychecks unless something happened. And so now they've been given an extension until the real Trump, at least that's what I'm being told, goes to the Korea to meet Xi Jinping of China, and they'll try to work out some sort of final deal. So that's the situation now. It's all in a state of chaos. Now, the other thing I'm hearing is the Kazarian Mafia, the Dark Hats, having gotten rid of Charlie Kirk in a public manner, they're planning some sort of public execution of people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens to try to demoralize the American people. But this will backfire, because if that happens, there will be lynch mobs. And they're not going to be able to, murder their way out of this. There are too many of us who are aware of what's going on. And something is going to break. there's a lot of things I cannot talk about, but back channels are being used, and people are being hunted down who are behind this fake Trump and that whole show. I cannot name the names now, but there are people we have not heard of. They're being in the background, but they're now being flushed out. So again, for now, the U.S. has bought time because the white hats have, basically blinked, and they're no longer threatening a thermonuclear war. And now this whole fake Trump show hopefully will be shut down. But until it is, you see it visibly. And I personally would like to see that Trump arrested, handcuffed in front of the cameras for saying, for murder, among other things. So let's see if that happens. But big things are happening, and they will continue to happen as we head towards November. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Ben, we have our first question for today. I understand that you do not want to talk about Charlie Kirk and the Charlie Kirk assassination, but this event is still very much on the internet. Recently, text messages from Charlie Kirk a couple of days before he died have come to light. The messages say that Kirk shared that the second $1 million Jewish donor had stopped supporting his organization, Turning Point, and as a result, he began feeling that he was being intimidated and so decided to stop his support of Israel. Do you think these messages coming to light are a cover for the real killers of Charlie Kirk?
No, I think that what's happened is that this whole Freemason assassination of Charlie Kirk backfired because people are blaming Israel instead of, starting some kind of civil war in the United States as was intended. So yeah, this is blowing up in their faces big time. It's not what they planned. So they did have a public Freemason execution of him, but it blew up in their faces, and hopefully before the end of this month, the Nazi satanic state of Israel will cease to exist, and their control over the politicians in the U.S. will be ended, and hopefully that'll be done by arresting every single politician who's accepted money from Israel. Next question.
So just to confirm your stance on that, do you believe that Charlie Kirk was killed by Kazarian Mafia in order to prevent him from turning on Israel?
In order to prevent him from turning on Israel, and also they tried to spin it that he was killed because he was attacking blacks and homosexuals. So they're trying to make it, divert people's attention in that direction. But yeah, he was killed because he was breaking with Israel, and he was killed by Israel and the Zionists, and that is now something that I think most people are aware of. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Do you think that the U.S. government shutdown is related to the arrival of the 3-1/Atlas that has entered our solar system and will be at perihelion with Earth near the end of this month? NASA has refused to release any pictures of the Atlas when it came by Mars, even though NASA has rovers on Mars. When people ask NASA if NASA's rover near Jupiter could take pictures of Atlas on its way back out of our solar system as it passes by Jupiter, NASA has said that its device will not take pictures of Atlas, even though it has been taking space photos for 11 years. Is NASA covering this up?
The very first mention in the news of 3-1 Atlas came from two Harvard professors who cited a virtual telescope as their source. That's a dead giveaway. Virtual means it's not real. This 3-1 Atlas is yet another attempt to do some kind of alien invasion thing by these people. And I'm not paying attention to it because I know it's fake. They've said so themselves. I think we're stupid if we think it's coming from a virtual telescope, that somehow it's real. So I would tune out of all that 3-1 Atlas stuff. It's just some kind of psyops. Ignore it. That's my advice. It's just BS. Next question.
Hi, Ben. My biggest concern about Japan is that the new Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi Senai, opting to bring political corruption of the 1930s and early 1940s Japan into real life by normalizing slush funds, mostly for illegal personal purposes and political operations. She was the darling of the Abe faction of the LDP, after all. What are your thoughts on her?
Well, before getting into her, I know from direct experience that the Japanese elections are or have been until very recently, completely fraudulent, and that 2/3 of the politicians are just actors who are intimidated and bribed into reading scripts that were, until recently, given to them by people like Richard Armitage and Joseph Nye, but they're now both dead. So something fundamental has changed in Japan. There's always been slush funds. There's always been corruption. I've personally observed politicians receiving, $20,000 cash bribes right in front of my eyes. So this is a completely corrupt political system. And when I hear about Sanae Takaichi, and I've met her a few times. We used to be on TV shows together when I was before I was blacklisted. She's a smart woman, but the Abe faction is the Unification Church, and that Unification Church is connected to North Korea. And in case you don't know it, North Korea is basically the part of the Japanese military government that never surrendered after World War II. So they're fighting to take over control of Japan, and the Komeito, or Clean Government Party, just withdrew from their alliance with the ruling party, and the Komeito is right now under the control of China. So there's a China-North Korea proxy war over Japan. So that right now it's sort of there's no real government in Japan. It's in a state of flux. I'm probably going to go back there soon and try to help set up a new system and a jubilee there, just as we need for North America and the West. But right now I'd say there is no real government in Japan. It's in a holding pattern. Next question.
Hi, Ben. The other thing I wanted to mention is that since COVID was a military operation, do you suppose excuse me, the DoD contracted with Pfizer and Moderna to produce the vaccines and put their corporate names on the vials? What if Borla is not actually responsible but was just fulfilling an order? Who is his counterpart at Moderna?
Public trial and probably executed if found guilty, which they will be. But I don't know exactly about Moderna. I just know that the Pfizer ones are considered more toxic. And I do know... the gold in Fort Knox is tungsten, gold-plated tungsten. It's worthless. The United States does not have gold. I do remember being sent a lot of pictures at the time when they did raid the Vatican, and there was all these popes were buried covered in jewels and gold and precious metals, and I know this was taken, but what again next week.